The enigmatic North Korea, led by the Kim dynasty, is notoriously secretive, effectively concealing many realities from the outside world. Its ironclad walls protect deep secrets that the state strives to hide. This video aims to unveil 15 of these clandestine aspects, beginning with a deep dive into the first secret, the nation's shadow economy. Number 1. The secret economy. North Korea's economy is one of the world's most tightly controlled and least understood. Despite its isolation, it's known that the state runs a substantial hidden economy that operates parallel to the official one. The country's leadership and the elite rely on this underground system, often for personal gain and power consolidation. The black markets, or jangmadong, play a crucial role in this secret economy. These markets started flourishing during the Great Famine of the 90s, when the state food distribution system collapsed. It's estimated that a substantial portion of the population depends on these markets for survival. They trade everything from food and household items to imported luxury goods and prohibited media content. In stark contrast to North Korea's official state-controlled, planned economy lies a secret, thriving underground market system. These unofficial markets, or jangmadong, began to emerge during the devastating famine of the 1990s, when the state's public distribution system collapsed and citizens had to find other ways to survive. Over time, these markets have grown in size and number and have become a vital part of the North Korean economy, despite the state's attempts to hide their existence. The jangmadong are centers of private entrepreneurship, where goods ranging from food and clothing to foreign media and electronics are sold. The goods sold in these markets are often sourced from China, smuggling operations, or are homemade. Although technically illegal, the authorities usually turn a blind eye, often due to bribes from market operators. In some cases, the state has even tacitly acknowledged these markets and attempted to regulate them. The markets also serve as hubs for the exchange of foreign currency, particularly Chinese yuan and US dollars, another practice that is officially illegal but largely tolerated. The use of foreign currency has become increasingly common due to the instability of the North Korean won and offers a degree of financial independence from the state. These unofficial markets provide an essential lifeline for many North Koreans. They offer goods and services that the state cannot provide, allow people to earn income outside the state-controlled system, and have even spawned a burgeoning middle class. Despite their importance, the state views these markets with suspicion as they undermine its control over the economy and expose citizens to foreign influences. The existence of these markets also challenges the state's narrative of self-reliance, or juche. While the regime continues to tout its commitment to self-reliance and state control, the reality is a growing reliance on market mechanisms and foreign goods. However, the state cannot fully crack down on these markets without risking popular backlash and economic instability, leaving it in a precarious position. The secret economy of North Korea, thus, reveals a society adapting and innovating under adversity. It exposes the failure of the state's economic policies and the resilience of its people. Despite the state's efforts to hide this reality, the existence of these markets and their role in North Korean society have become increasingly difficult to deny, providing the outside world with a rare glimpse into the otherwise hidden economic life of ordinary North Koreans. In addition, there is another layer to this secret economy: the illicit activities directly conducted or sanctioned by the state. These illegal ventures include counterfeiting foreign currency, manufacturing and smuggling narcotics, and cybercrimes such as hacking and cryptocurrency theft. They are part of the state's strategy to generate hard currency, circumvent sanctions, and finance its nuclear and missile programs. The Kim regime tightly regulates information about these illicit activities, making it difficult for the outside world to get a clear picture. However, it's undeniable that this secret economy helps the regime maintain control over its people, finance its military ambitions, and survive in the face of extensive international sanctions. This clandestine economic system, a critical pillar of North Korea's survival strategy, is one of the many secrets that the North Korean government would prefer kept hidden from the world. As we move forward, we will uncover even more hidden aspects of this fascinating yet deeply concerning nation. Number 2. the reality of prison camps. One of North Korea's most chilling secrets lies in the existence and conditions of its extensive network of prison camps, often termed as kwanliso. These detention facilities are allegedly home to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of political prisoners and their families. The prison population consists not only of those accused of political crimes, but often extends to their relatives, embodying the regime's guilt by association policy. Reports from defectors and satellite imagery provide evidence of these camps, which are designed to be isolated, heavily fortified, and virtually impenetrable. Living conditions in the camps are reported to be inhumane, with severe overcrowding, malnutrition, forced labor, and frequent torture. Mortality rates are high, driven by the brutal conditions and a systematic disregard for human life. The prisoners are reportedly used as forced labor in various state-run enterprises, ranging from logging and mining to agriculture. This essentially amounts to state-sanctioned slavery, with prisoners working long hours under harsh conditions, with little to no consideration for their health or safety. The existence and operations of these prison camps are one of North Korea's most carefully guarded secrets. The state denies their existence, maintaining a facade of respecting citizens' rights. Yet, the evidence gathered by human rights organizations around the world paints a horrifying picture of the regime's brutal treatment of its own people. Number 3. The extent of censorship. The Kim regime exerts an unprecedented level of control over the flow of information within North Korea. Its censorship apparatus is extensive, designed to isolate the population from the outside world and maintain the ruling party's ideological monopoly. State propaganda dominates all forms of media, from news videos and radio to television and the internet. The government controls and monitors all content, ensuring it aligns with the state's political and ideological narrative. Criticism of the government is forbidden, and dissent is swiftly and harshly punished. The North Korean state's control over information, one of its most powerful tools for maintaining power and controlling its citizens, is incredibly far-reaching. The true extent of this censorship, however, remains a closely guarded secret by the regime. The regime also exerts control over the content that its citizens can access from the outside world. International news broadcasts are jammed, foreign publications are banned, and access to the global internet is heavily restricted and monitored. North Koreans are instead provided with a state-controlled intranet, known as the Kwangmyong, which only contains government-approved content. Control over the flow of information is maintained through severe punishments. Video inning to foreign broadcasts, possessing foreign publications, or accessing prohibited internet content can lead to harsh penalties, including imprisonment in labor camps. The regime also uses these laws to stifle dissent and silence critics. Despite the state's efforts, illicit foreign content, particularly from South Korea, still manages to find its way into the country through various means. Smuggled DVDs, USB sticks, and illegal radio broadcasts have become significant sources of outside information for many North Koreans. The regime has responded by cracking down on these activities, investing in sophisticated surveillance technologies, and conducting regular inspections and raids. The extent of North Korean censorship is not only a testament to the regime's fear of outside influences and potential internal dissent, but also reveals the lengths to which it will go to maintain its narrative and control. By limiting its citizens' access to information, the regime isolates them from the world, manipulates their understanding of it, and keeps them reliant on the state for knowledge and understanding. While the regime goes to great lengths to maintain this information blockade, the reality, as revealed by defectors and covertly obtained reports, is starting to chip away at this barrier. Despite the dangers, more and more North Koreans are risking punishment to access foreign content, underscoring their growing curiosity and thirst for knowledge about the world beyond their borders. The regime's censorship extends to the internet, where access is heavily restricted and monitored. Most North Koreans cannot access the global internet and are instead limited to a state-controlled intranet called Kwangmyong. This closed network only features state-approved content and lacks any foreign or independent media. Moreover, the government uses censorship to perpetuate its personality cult and historical revisionism. This includes glorifying the Kim dynasty, rewriting historical events to fit its narrative, and indoctrinating its citizens with its state ideology of juche, or self-reliance. In the eyes of North Korea's leadership, information is power. Thus, they go to great lengths to control it, making the extent of their censorship another secret they desperately want to keep from the outside world. Number 4. The Kim dynasty's personality cult. A key pillar of North Korea's ruling strategy lies in the cult of personality meticulously built around the Kim dynasty. Each leader, from Kim Il-sung to Kim Jong-un, has been presented as an infallible demigod, deserving of absolute loyalty and devotion. This personality cult is omnipresent in North Korean society, dominating education, media, and public life. Myth-making and hagiography form the bedrock of this cult. Leaders are credited with supernatural abilities and achievements. For instance, Kim Jong-il's official biography suggests that his birth was marked by a double rainbow and a new star in the sky. Such tales are woven into the fabric of North Korean society, aimed at enhancing the leader's divine status. The personality cult extends beyond reverence and loyalty. It serves as a tool for political control, ensuring absolute compliance from citizens. Criticizing the leadership or failing to show proper respect is considered treason, punishable by severe penalties. This near-deification of the Kim family is a cornerstone of the state's control over its population. Despite the seemingly bizarre nature of these myths to the outside world, the Kim regime goes to great lengths to maintain the facade. The state tightly controls the dissemination of information, ensuring that the personality cult permeates every aspect of North Korean life, solidifying the Kim dynasty's unchallenged rule. Number 5. The state of public health. While North Korea often touts its free and universal healthcare system, the reality paints a starkly different picture. The nation's public health system is in a state of decay, plagued by chronic shortages of medicine, outdated medical equipment, and inadequate infrastructure. Much of North Korea's rural population lacks access to even the most basic health services. Malnutrition is widespread, especially among children, while diseases like tuberculosis have seen a resurgence. Despite these grim realities, the state often underreports health issues, portraying a rosy picture of public health to the outside world. Furthermore, international sanctions and isolation have only exacerbated the crisis. While the sanctions do not target medical supplies, the stringent financial restrictions make transactions difficult, hampering humanitarian aid efforts. Additionally, the nation's reluctance to accept foreign aid and insistence on self-reliance further deteriorate the healthcare situation. The dire state of North Korea's public health system is a closely guarded secret, one that contradicts the state's propaganda. The government's reluctance to accept external assistance underscores the lengths it will go to maintain its facade, even if it means jeopardizing its citizens' health and well-being. Number 6. The human rights crisis. North Korea's human rights record is notoriously poor, marked by widespread abuses that go largely unchecked due to the nation's isolation. The state operates with a systematic disregard for fundamental human rights. These abuses, ranging from political repression to restrictions on freedom of movement and expression, form a grave crisis that the state desperately tries to conceal. The regime uses fear and intimidation as tools to stifle dissent and maintain control. Arbitrary arrests, detentions without trial, torture, and public executions are commonplace, often used to set a chilling example for the rest of the populace. Furthermore, the state heavily restricts freedom of movement, both within the country and across its borders. Unauthorized travel can lead to severe punishment, including internment in prison camps. The state's control extends to virtually every aspect of life, including freedom of speech, assembly, and information. The regime controls all media and heavily censors content, ensuring that the population is only exposed to state propaganda. This severe infringement of freedom helps the state maintain its grip on power and perpetuate its narrative. The human rights crisis in North Korea is one of the world's most serious, yet it remains shrouded in secrecy due to the state's isolation. The regime goes to great lengths to hide these abuses, but the chilling accounts of defectors and human rights organizations continue to shed light on this dark secret. Number 7. The hidden drug trade. Another shadowy aspect of North Korea is its involvement in the illicit drug trade. The country is known to produce and distribute drugs both domestically and internationally as a means of generating hard currency for the cash-strapped regime. This secret operation has been a significant yet hidden part of the country's economy for decades. Methamphetamine, also known as crystal meth or ice, is a primary drug produced in North Korea. Reports suggest that the state has not only sanctioned the production and sale of this highly addictive drug, but is directly involved in its manufacturing and distribution. The drug is primarily exported, but its use is also rampant domestically, where it's often used as a substitute for expensive medicines. The government's involvement in the drug trade is a well-kept secret, as it contradicts the state's image as a law-abiding, morally upright nation. However, evidence from defectors, along with seizures of North Korean-made drugs in neighboring countries, indicates the extensive reach of this illicit trade. Despite international condemnation and sanctions, North Korea's involvement in the drug trade persists, pointing to the regime's desperation to maintain its power and economic stability. This hidden drug trade is yet another clandestine activity that the North Korean regime seeks to hide from the world. Number 8. The government's elaborate propaganda machine. One of the primary tools that the North Korean government uses to control its citizens and maintain its power is its elaborate propaganda machine. The state controls all media within the country, and it uses this monopoly to shape public perception and enforce its narrative. State propaganda portrays the leaders of the Kim dynasty as godlike figures and emphasizes the supposed superiority of North Korea over other nations, especially its adversaries like South Korea and the United States. The state's Juche ideology, stressing self-reliance and national pride, is another constant theme in propaganda materials. This extensive propaganda serves to legitimize the Kim regime's rule and instill loyalty among citizens. The propaganda machine operates across multiple channels. State-run news videos, radio, and television stations constantly disseminate government-approved messages. Schools serve as a primary platform for ideological education, with textbooks glorifying the leaders and promoting the state's narrative. One of the more subtle yet pervasive forms of propaganda is the state's control over art and culture. Music, films, and literature are all heavily regulated and are often used to promote the state's ideology. Public performances and events, such as the mass games, serve as large-scale propaganda displays. The scope and depth of North Korea's propaganda machine are kept secret from the outside world. However, testimonies from defectors reveal the regime's efforts to control information and manipulate public opinion, providing a glimpse into the state's sophisticated propaganda apparatus. Number 9. The hidden wealth of the elite. Despite the widespread poverty and economic struggles that afflict North Korea, a small group of elites linked to the Kim regime live in relative opulence. This hidden wealth of the North Korean elite is a stark contrast to the destitution experienced by the majority of the country's populace. The elites, who mainly reside in the capital Pyongyang, enjoy access to imported goods, luxury vehicles, and even Western-style supermarkets stocked with foreign products. This stark economic disparity is concealed from the general public and the outside world, and it highlights the regime's hypocrisy and corruption. These elites derive their wealth from various sources, including state-sanctioned illicit activities like smuggling, drug trafficking, and cybercrimes. In addition, they benefit from their access to foreign currency, which is heavily restricted for the general populace. Contrary to the state's propaganda promoting equality and solidarity among its citizens, the wealth of the elite tells a different story. It reveals a society marked by extreme inequality and a regime willing to prioritize its survival and luxury over the well-being of its people. This hidden wealth of the elites is another secret that the North Korean government prefers to keep shrouded in mystery. Number 10. The truth behind election process. North Korea presents itself as a democratic republic to the world, with regular elections held every 5 years. However, these elections are far from democratic. The truth behind the North Korean election process is a well-guarded secret, as it serves as a tool for the regime to maintain control and reinforce its legitimacy. The elections in North Korea are a mere formality, devoid of any genuine competition. The state presents a single candidate for each district, hand-picked by the ruling party. The citizen's role is limited to approving the pre-selected candidate, with voting being mandatory for all eligible citizens. Any form of dissent or abstention is not only forbidden, but can also lead to severe repercussions. These elections serve multiple purposes for the regime. They allow the state to keep track of its population and identify any potential dissent. They also serve as a propaganda tool, with the state boasting near-perfect voter turnout and unanimous support for its candidates as evidence of its legitimacy and the population's loyalty. The reality of North Korea's elections is a stark contrast to the image the state projects to the outside world. It reveals a political system designed to suppress opposition and dissent, maintaining the Kim dynasty's rule unchallenged. This illusion of democracy is another secret that the North Korean regime strives to hide. Number 11. The reality of child labor. Child labor is another disturbing reality that North Korea tries to hide from the world. Despite being a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, the country has a high prevalence of child labor, primarily driven by its dire economic conditions and the state's policies. North Korean children are often forced to work in dangerous and physically demanding conditions, with their basic rights and safety ignored. They are involved in various sectors, including agriculture, mining, and manual labor. Many schools reportedly require students to work in farms during harvest seasons, a practice that disrupts their education. Furthermore, children, particularly those in orphanages or street children, are reportedly subjected to the worst forms of child labor, including forced labor and trafficking. These children are particularly vulnerable, with little protection or recourse against exploitation. The state maintains a veil of secrecy around the issue of child labor, presenting itself as a protector of children's rights. However, the accounts of defectors and human rights organizations uncover the grim reality of child exploitation, a secret that contradicts North Korea's carefully crafted image and exposes the regime's disregard for human rights. Number 12. The starvation crisis and food insecurity. One of the most devastating aspects of life in North Korea is the chronic food insecurity and periodic starvation crises that afflict the nation. Despite the state's attempts to present an image of prosperity and self-reliance, food shortages are a recurring issue, often leading to widespread malnutrition and death. The food crisis in North Korea is primarily due to a combination of economic mismanagement, agricultural inefficiencies, and natural disasters. These problems are compounded by the state's isolationist policies and the impact of international sanctions. Yet, the government often downplays the severity of these crises, insisting on self-reliance and refusing foreign aid. The food insecurity is not evenly distributed across the population. The state's public distribution system, which is supposed to provide food rations to citizens, is heavily biased towards the elites and the military, leaving the vulnerable segments of society to bear the brunt of the shortages. Rural populations, in particular, face acute food shortages and malnutrition. The state tightly controls information about these crises, making it difficult for the outside world to grasp the full extent of the problem. Yet, reports from humanitarian organizations and defectors paint a dire picture of hunger and deprivation. The stark reality of food insecurity and starvation in North Korea is a secret that the regime goes to great lengths to hide. Number 13. The true scale of military power. North Korea is known for its large military force and its nuclear weapons program. However, the true scale and capabilities of its military power are shrouded in secrecy and often exaggerated by state propaganda. While it's evident that North Korea has a substantial standing army and has developed nuclear weapons, the exact size, readiness, and capabilities of its forces are difficult to assess due to the country's isolation. State propaganda often portrays the military as invincible and technologically advanced, but these claims are hard to verify independently. Moreover, the focus on military might has come at a significant cost. The policy of Songun, or military first, has led to the allocation of scarce resources to the military at the expense of other sectors, contributing to the country's chronic economic and social issues. The reality of North Korea's military power is more complex than what the state presents to the outside world. While it undoubtedly has substantial military capabilities, the actual condition of its forces, including their readiness, morale, and the state of their equipment, is likely less impressive than the official narrative suggests. This discrepancy between perception and reality is another secret that North Korea tries to keep hidden from the world. Number 14. The control over personal life. The degree of control that the North Korean state exerts over the personal lives of its citizens is almost unparalleled. It is a little-known secret that life in North Korea is heavily regulated and monitored, with the state's influence extending to almost every aspect of daily life. The state's control starts with the very basics, the place of residence. Citizens do not have the freedom to choose where they live. Housing is assigned by the state based on factors like employment, social status, and perceived loyalty to the regime. Unauthorized movement, even within the country, is heavily restricted and can lead to severe punishment. Education is another domain where the state exercises considerable control. The curriculum is tightly controlled, with a strong focus on ideological indoctrination and the glorification of the Kim dynasty. History is rewritten to fit the state's narrative, and students are taught to be unquestioningly loyal to the regime from a young age. The state also dictates the kind of work citizens do. Jobs are assigned by the government based on the needs of the state and the individual's songbun or social status. This system denies citizens the freedom to choose their occupation and ties their livelihoods to the state's whims. Beyond these regulations, the state also enforces a rigid social hierarchy known as songbun. This system classifies citizens based on their family's perceived loyalty to the regime, affecting all aspects of life, from education and employment opportunities to housing and food rations. It serves as a tool of social control, rewarding loyalty and punishing perceived disloyalty. The extent of control over personal life in North Korea is a closely guarded secret, revealing the lengths to which the regime will go to maintain its power. It highlights a society where individual freedom is severely restricted and personal choices are subsumed under the state's agenda. Despite the state's efforts to present a picture of unity and harmony, the reality of life in North Korea is marked by control, surveillance, and the constant fear of punishment. Number 15. The threat and fear of defection. Defection, or the act of fleeing North Korea, is a grave crime in the eyes of the regime and is surrounded by a cloud of fear, misinformation, and dire consequences. This pervasive fear of defection is another secret that the state attempts to hide, both to prevent further defections and to maintain the facade of unity and contentment among its populace. The journey to defect is fraught with danger, as it involves crossing heavily fortified borders, often under the threat of being shot on sight. Those who make it face a perilous journey through China, where they must avoid detection since China considers North Korean defectors as economic migrants, rather than refugees, and forcibly repatriates them if caught. Once repatriated, defectors face severe punishment, including torture, imprisonment, and even execution. The threat of such repercussions is a powerful deterrent that the regime uses to discourage defections. North Korean society is structured to prevent defections. The regime maintains a pervasive surveillance system, with informants in every neighborhood and institution. Moreover, the practice of collective punishment, where family members and close associates of defectors face repercussions, creates an environment of fear and self-censorship. The state also spreads propaganda about the hardships and dangers defectors face, aiming to dissuade potential defectors. Despite these obstacles, many North Koreans still risk their lives to flee the oppressive regime. The exact number of defectors is difficult to ascertain due to the secretive nature of these journeys. However, the testimonies of those who have successfully defected offer valuable insights into the harsh realities of life in North Korea. Defectors are a significant threat to the North Korean regime because they reveal the secrets the state works so hard to hide. Their stories expose the truth about the regime's human rights abuses, economic failures, and the lack of basic freedoms. Moreover, they undermine the regime's narrative of contentment and loyalty among its citizens. The fear and threat of defection are a testament to the desperate conditions many North Koreans face. It speaks volumes about a regime that inspires such fear and goes to such lengths to prevent its citizens from leaving. It is a secret the North Korean state tries to suppress, as it undermines the image of the loyal and united populace it tries to project to the outside world. Yet each defection shines a light on the hidden realities of the North Korean regime and the resilience of those who dare to seek freedom.